Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on Greed is Good. I always think of the movie with Michael Sheen, or is it Martin Sheen? I think it's Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen. And what's it called? Wall Street. I just had to think about the movie actually. And he said, there's a famous line where he said, "Greed is good." And the whole movie they make the guy look like evil guy that's like just these Wall Street players that basically rob people and do all the evil things. And then he says that great line, "Greed is good." So you know that the opposite should be true. But I'm actually going to defend him in this video, and I'm going to show you why greed is actually good. And I'll give you a very simple example. Uh, if you think of the situation of a crisis like let's say there's a water shortage, okay, and people need water. So what ends up happening is people start hoarding water. Like if you have access to any water at that point when there's a water crisis, what you do is you hoard it naturally. People just naturally do that because they're worried that that water won't be available in the future days, right? Because there's a water shortage and you protect yourself. So generally what ends up happening is that actually makes the water shortage even more severe because people are now hoarding the resources. And there are a few people who try to use that hoarding as a means of making profit. So what they'll do is they'll hoard it at a low price and then they'll resell it at a high price, a very high price, maybe 10, 100 times the normal price. And what you think is, oh, those evil people who are basically ripping people off. And and you say, oh, they're greedy, okay? And generally what ends up happening is that kind of sucks. It's a situation where it kind of sucks. And people do suffer as a result. But what also happens is when the price is really high, you get other greedy people that would say, hey, there's money to be made selling water in this case. And what they'll do is they'll find ways to get more water so that they can sell it and make money while the price is really hot. So what ends up happening is the greed of others and the greed of the people involved drive the market, and that market makes an adjustment. So what ends up happening is you get all these people bringing in water, and all of a sudden you have a very quick resolve to the problem that the prices are high. Because when all of a sudden the supply becomes great, where all these people have brought in more water just to profit on it, what ends up happening is they kill the market. They actually bring the price back down again. And then your water shortage is no longer. And this is the great thing about capitalism, that greed actually solves these kind of interesting problems where we have like people who you think, oh, it's like they're so greedy and they're like so evil, they're trying to gouge the prices. And what ends up happening is that same greed undermines their ability to make that huge profit. Because what ends up happening is as the supply gets flooded, the price drops. So it actually ends up solving the very crisis. Now governments will try to do the opposite. They'll discourage greed because they say, oh, greed is evil and you shouldn't profiteer on this kind of stuff. And what ends up happening is instead of solving the problem, they actually extend the problem. So what ends up happening is the problem, instead of lasting a few days, it might last a few weeks or months because they're not allowing the market to correct. They're not allowing greed to correct the problem within the market. So that's how capitalism and greed works. That people really want to make money, and because they're so eager to make money, they will satisfy a demand, and they'll over satisfy it often. And when they over satisfy a demand, they basically kill the price of that thing, and they bring down the price. That's why under capitalist societies, often prices are fairly low for products. Whereas under socialism, where it's like a planned economy, the prices are often very, very high. And the actual supply and the variety of supply is very limited. So capitalism is all about greed, and that greed drives supply, and it drives also the variety of supplies, because not only do they try to supply things, but what they do is they will try to supply a variety, make my product slightly different than somebody else's product, and that way I can differentiate myself and survive when the prices drop. So instead of just supplying water, they supply sparkling water or mountain water or spring water, something to make it a little bit different, and therefore maintain that value. And that's the greed incentive, that they want to maintain that profit margin by distinguishing themselves. So often under capitalist societies, you get really good a sense of variety of products, and that is a good thing. We like having the variety of products because it can satisfy all our different tastes. There's actually a really cool story about that where one of the early marketing guys, he he was asked to make the perfect, I think Pepsi or Coke or one of those ones. And what happened when he did that was he realized that there wasn't a perfect Coke, there wasn't a perfect Pepsi, because what was happening was Pepsi and Coke were always fighting with each other, and some people liked Pepsi and they really liked Pepsi, and some people liked Coke and they really liked Coke, and they wouldn't switch between the two. And what they wanted to do was find out what is the perfect Coke that everybody will love. And he did a whole bunch of experiments where he was like adding sugar or removing sugar and adding like more caffeine, less caffeine, all these different things, and to see what was the perfect combination that would satisfy everybody, and everyone would say, oh, this is the best Coke ever or best Pepsi ever. And no matter what he did, he found that there was none. There was nothing that would satisfy everybody because everybody had different tastes. And he did the same with pasta sauces. He later, so he got fired from that gig because they were like, well, you can't find the answer, you're an idiot. So he got fired, and he was sort of a loser for a while. But then he was asked to do like pasta sauces, and he actually used the philosophy that he learned from working on Coke or Pepsi, or I forget which one. And he used that philosophy when creating the pasta sauces, and he ended up creating a whole bunch of different types of pasta sauces. And he said that what we noticed was some people like thick sauces, like with lots of chunks and stuff. Some people like very thin sauces, and some people like spicy sauces. And what he did was he created 3 lines rather than 1 line of pasta sauces, and that product just boomed. It was the thing that turned that company around in terms of pasta sauce. And it's because he realized that people have different desires, different needs, and they have different tastes. And once you realize that, you realize how greed and the benefit of greed works, that you can really, you can have all these companies each creating their own variations of products that really service the individual desires and needs of the market. And that's very different than a socialist society. Socialist society will make one pasta sauce and it's this kind of sauce. Everybody, you want pasta sauce, this is the pasta sauce you get. And it doesn't really understand the market or even understand the individuals that want the product. They just provide a product. And that's, it's a lack of creativity, it's a lack of really understanding greed that kills a lot of socialist societies. So this has kind of been my explanation of why greed is good, because it creates this force of creativity, of ingenuity, and also creates a situation where people can really bring in lots of new products and bring in supplies when maybe supplies are dwindling. It helps solve a crisis. And it's all about being greedy, that people really want to maintain their profit and satisfy the demands of the market. And that's a good thing. So greed is good. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this gives a little bit more insight into capitalism. And yeah, check out my other videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.